This team doesn't like to lose. It's a huge, huge, drastic difference that you can just watch all over the body language, the post game conferences. Uh, that loss to Dallas hurt. You can see it written all over their face, and you can tell on the way that they were walking off the court. They were just very disappointed to lose that one. And then after the 40-point loss to the Clippers, even more so. So that's a big improvement. I want to say on this team versus teams that in the past, I don't want to say that they enjoy losing either, but there's something to this team where you can tell in their face that they believe, they have an expectation that they can win games, and that they want to do that. I think these players are dead tired of losing, and I think that Wembanyama has that same approach. And he talked about in his press conference how much he loves to win, and winning is his favorite thing in life. And I think losing is the opposite end of that. I don't think Wembanyama enjoys talking after press conferences, after losses, and things like that. So there's like a true passion here for winning that this group has, and it's like an expectation for themselves, that they're just tired of having that tag on them that says that they're not going to win that many games. I think they believe different. My assessment to this point, and we're going to talk about the point guard situation here in a second, but this is all kind of in the same picture. My assessment of this point of this team has been 50-50. I think that there's a shot that with that attitude, the players they can make something special happen this season. I'm not saying they're going to be one of the best teams in the league or in the West or anything like that. I think maybe a ceiling for this group uh, is play in eighth spot, some type of getting in that mix, but really having a shot at it, maybe even getting that eighth spot, right? um, so it's always been 50-50 to me, just depending on how the players play with that grit and that mindset, how fast they learn to play with Wimby. We see that that's going to be a little bit of a process naturally, guys. Naturally, you can play in open gyms and training camp all you want, but when until those lights go on and you're up against a team out there that's trying to take you out, that's when you learn about yourselves. That's when you learn about each other, and that's when you learn how to get the best out of each other and who you can get the best out of from. Okay, so I think that they have a shot to make some noise, but kind of talking about this point guard situation in the preseason, if you go back and look at my early offseason assessment of this roster, I always talked about Tre Jones having that starting point guard spot because he's the really only true point guard out there. And I was suggesting maybe KJ is that guy that can come off the bench. Uh, but I'm not on that train anymore. I think so far after these 3 games, I think KJ needs to start. Keldon Johnson needs to start. He's bringing a lot of intangibles to the game. It looks a lot like rookie year Keldon Johnson, where I used to call him 50-50. I even had like a little trailer on him I made on the channel. You can look it up. It's like a Rogue One Keldon Johnson trailer because this guy was all over the loose balls, all over those 50-50 balls, grabbing offensive rebounds, putbacks, bullying people. I mean, y'all remember KJ, rookie year KJ, that's what he did. And we're starting to see a lot more of that. But he's also, coming in with his scoring output. Like he's looking to score. You can see how comfortable he looks in the half court. And I've always been a big believer in that you need to have him to start games. And up to this kind of point, because of Wembanyama and the roster configuration, I always believe that he's always ready to play and throw the first punch. And so I'm not on that train anymore that KJ is the guy that needs to be off the bench. He needs to start. So now it becomes a Sohan versus Jones question. And first, we got to talk about a little bit of the point guard role. We're seeing Sohan struggle in these first few games, and we got to understand that the point guard. I was a point guard. I played point guard in high school. I played basketball my whole life, and I was a point guard. I'm not tall, right? I had those. I had that position kind of in my grasp since I was young. And my dad was a point guard as well. And he always talked to me about being a leader, knowing how to control the pace, getting to the free throw line, knowing how to get everybody else going. You got to see things before they happen. You got to be 2 steps in front of, the play, whatever's going on defensively. Your assignments are always difficult. You got to hold people accountable in rotations. You got to be the vocal leader out there on both sides of the floor. which means you have to have a high IQ. And I think that what we're seeing is that, Sohan's never been a point guard in his probably in his life. And so, in order to develop those skills to be an elite NBA level point guard, either you got to be an unbelievable, like true point guard, or in the modern NBAs, you got to be a scoring point guard. You got to be that Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, De'Aaron Fox, those guys that can just like score at will and then get everybody else going. That's kind of the modern NBA point guard today. Um, so, where does Sohan fall in either of those? The answer is no. Jeremy Sohan is not a point guard, and the coaching staff know this. This isn't anything new to the coaching staff. So we got to understand that they're a lot smarter than us. They have a long term vision on what their big picture looks like and how they're going to develop to get to that big picture. And I think that it's something that we're going to have to adjust as we see this play out, and we're seeing Sohan maybe get a little bit better at certain things game to game throughout a game to game basis, but he's still having a pretty hard time at finding reads, making simple passes. You can tell like he brings up the ball and he's going, and to be a point guard, you got to have a swagger to you. You got to know, like you got to be so advanced in your brain that you're comfortable with your dribble. You don't have to, if defense comes up or whatever, or if that pass isn't there, you got to automatically know, okay, what's the situation? What's the right way to go here? How are we going to work this out? As it's your job. It's your job as a leader to make sure that there's a flow to the game, right? And all those things that I mentioned earlier that are good qualities of point guards. And Sohan has been a power forward basically his entire career. He's been off the ball, learning how to make impact plays off the ball in transition, knowing his role was to be the dirty guy his whole career, right? Like get the rebound, set hard screens, get in the other guy's face that's talking smack, dunk on some fools along the way. We've seen his free throw shot go through the roof. Looks great with that 100 free throw. But those aren't point guard skills. You know what I mean? Those aren't point guard. That's not a point guard IQ mindset, even. You know what I mean? So there's gonna be a big, drastic change and learning curve for Sohan. So if the Spurs are sitting down, the coaching staff, the organization is sitting down before their season, and they're making this choice to not start Tre Jones, because Tre Jones is that true point guard, and you can see it as soon as he gets out there. He's like click, 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 click. Things start moving. He starts finding wide open guys. He knows when to advance the ball, when not to advance the ball, when to look for somebody else to score. And he's actually been a pretty good scorer so far this season as well. Tre Jones has. Shooting the three ball pretty well, looking to get his floater out. He knows when that lane is wide open because there's focus on Wimby or whatever, and he knows when to attack. And we're seeing like Sohan not really have all those qualities, and that's because those qualities cannot be obtained through watching film. Those qualities cannot be obtained through open gyms. Those qualities are only in the heat of battle, in a fight for a win. You're learning how you have to watch that game play out. You have to learn on how you're going to affect the game, because Sohan, he's gonna learn, and that's the goal here. And I think that the organization are either making a choice to, continue on this development, really breed him into a playmaker, because that's another thing that he's going to have to bring to the table in this spot, is knowing how to make plays. And it's something that's going to take all season. It might take 2 years. It might take 3 years. Now, you know, it also, what I want to say is that if the coaching staff is sitting there and they have the choice, to either start Tre Jones or maybe start Sohan at point, and they're choosing to start Sohan, that means they know the analytics behind that. They know that with Tre Jones in the lineup, these are the numbers. These are the winning percentages. This is the all the different stats that measure out against each other. They probably know that Tre Jones has the higher value in those stats right now. But then they're also probably thinking, okay, yeah, but if Sohan can develop, blah, 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 that the impact and the potential of that move and the impact of the player, the development in the actual player in Jeremy is going to eventually outweigh whatever Tre Jones gets you now, right? And so that's kind of my take on the situation right now. And I know that everyone's probably out there seeing, Tre Jones do very well, and he is. And I talked about that in the last episode, saying that I think coming off the bench is like tailor made for him. Like I think this is probably the easiest. Like he's kind of felt like the best he's felt on the floor coming off the bench and providing that spark and really like changing the game, because he changes the game when he gets in here. So we're choosing to develop right now, and that clearly, if you're evaluating those things, like I said, puts a limit, maybe not a limit, but a ceiling on how many wins, you guys will probably produce. Because in the NBA, you got to have a good point guard to be competitive. I mean, look at all the NBA teams that are in the playoffs, and they have a great point guard at the helm, right? Either scoring or facilitating or, getting triple doubles or whatever. Shout out to DeJounte Murray, who had a 41-point night the other night. He looks great. His body looks great right now. Derek White's doing awesome setting that table. You know what I mean? Like, so we've seen it, Tony Parker. We've seen the different style of point guards that we can have, and Jeremy's not any of them. So what does that mean in the future? Does it mean that Jeremy's always going to be our starting point guard moving forward? I don't know. It really just depends on what the plans are. But what we can predict is that his IQ is going to go up, and it's going to go up through challenges, through losses, through obstacles that he's going to have to overcome, lose. Like he's going to he's going to have, these big turnover nights. He's going to, make these silly plays or forced plays, things that, you don't want to see. But there's a trust in his IQ, and that he's going to learn, and that by the end of the season, he's going to be a way better player for this team moving forward than this team maybe would have a little bit higher ceiling this year by starting Tre. Um, and Tre Jones is awesome, man. I'm super proud of how he's been handling this role, and I'm super proud of Jeremy Sochan and the way he's been taking on this challenge, because I think most people would probably get scared as shit in the NBA if they were told that, hey, you've never been point guard in your life, but you're gonna be it now. And last year we experimented with it, and he showed promise, he showed growth, and so I think they're banking on more growth from Jeremy, because the when asked about the starting lineup in the beginning of the year, Pop's like, "Hey, well, those are the big guys. Those are our big guns, and we're going to be big." And I fully 100% can get behind that idea and that plan to get bigger on this court, because we've been small for the past. Even when LaMarcus and DeMar were here, we had Brent Forbes and DeJounte, and so we're not all that big. But now you get Jeremy Sochan, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Wembanyama, and Zach Collins. It's a very big lineup. Now they have to learn what this is. Jeremy has to learn how to get the best out of everybody in this lineup, and also know when it's his time to maybe bully the smaller point guard, because that's another advantage to him. He's always going to be going against the guy that's smaller than him. So he's going to have to learn how to make that a priority kind of point of attack, but win, how what's the flow of the game? You can see that now they're looking to go to Wimby early and often, which is great. I mean, I remember a game with LaMarcus Aldridge where it was against Portland, and we ran the same play 6 times in a row. Just came down again, 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 and he knocked them all down. He started, or maybe he missed one. He was like 5 for 6 to start the game. It was like 10 points, no problem. That type of stuff takes time to figure out, and the Spurs are doing a really good job, I think, with it right now. It's not going to equal wins. We have to be aware of that. Without a true point guard or scoring point guard in the modern NBA, the ceiling isn't going to be that high win wise. But what's the upside? We just talked about it. We just talked about the potential impact on Sohan as a player, and honestly, the size advantage that we can put on other teams if they ever do figure this out. And if they figure it out this season, I mean, great. I have all the confidence that this group, like I said in the beginning, hates losing. They're tired of it. It's written all over their body language and their mindset. You can just feel it, and which is very, very positive to see. Um, Something else we did last year would be to put Malachi Branham at the point guard. We did that a little bit as well, and that's an interesting look too. I mean, if Sohan ever has to sit out I don't know if we just start Tre. The Spurs like to keep people in their roles, even though stuff like that happens. So maybe we start Branham. We played against the Clippers the other day and lost by 40, and Branham didn't have a good game. I think he missed his first 3 or 4 shots, and that's one of the first times that I've ever seen Branham miss his first shot or first 2 shots. You know what I mean? So, having him in a starting lineup is something else we might want to keep an eye on because he's ready to go. He comes out firing and swinging. Um, Another playmaker opportunity that can help, maybe not starting, but I don't know what's going on with Mamu uh, Keshvili. I'm blanking on his name, but he's an excellent playmaker as well, and I would like to see him be in those lineups with like Wimby and Sohan, and like he's big too. So maybe off the bench he can come in and kind of supplement some playmaking because he's a very smart player. So at the end of the day, do you need to be worried? Do you need to be concerned? Do you need to have a side? Do you have to choose a side? Oh no, I don't want Jeremy to start anymore. Oh no, I want Tre to start now. No, you don't need to start. We got to let this thing play out. We got to understand that we know. I'm pretty sure the staff knows that Tre is a better point guard. He is a point guard, right? But they're going with the impact of defensive ability, size, physicality, toughness that a big lineup can really impose their will. Because most of the NBA likes to go small now too. So, we got Devin, who's a scorer, Keldon, who's a scorer, Wimby, who's a scorer. Zach Collins has been doing an excellent job facilitating the ball against the Rockets. He had like 8 assists. I might do a film room on that in the future. Uh, because the playmaking is a necessity, right? When you don't have a true point guard, Zach Collins becomes, one of the guys that needs to find guys. He's finding guys going back door on the wing. He's the IQ right now in that lineup. So shout out to Zach Collins, man, for stepping up in that department. So a lot of good positive things that we can look forward to. I think we need to embrace Tre in this kind of bench role. I think he's doing a fantastic job, and he's making us extremely compatible when he comes into the game. So uh, that's my thoughts on that situation. It does kind of tell you the direction of this season. I think the mindset is not to win as many games; it's to develop still. And I think last year and the past 2 seasons, that's been the priority to develop, but we did it in other ways. So we'll just see how fast that these guys can put it together. The guys on the floor, I have all the faith in them as a unit. Like I think they all support Sohan. I think they know the challenges he's going to face, and I think he is a type of player with a mindset who's hard on himself and knows is going to realize really quick where he needs to improve, and he's going to learn how. I'm sure Tre Jones is talking to him a lot on the sideline. Coach Tre Jones is in the game doing all this great point guard stuff, advancing the ball, finding wide open guys, dribbling, and knowing how to attack and draw 2 players to kick out to a wide open guy. And I've seen Pop go straight to Sohan and tell him that, that's what you got to do. Like that's what we're looking for. That is the type of point guard, blah blah blah. That's a skill set that you need to pick up. This and that. So it's going to be a lot of little doses of that throughout the year, um, moving forward. So I hope that clears up some uh, point guard situations for you guys. And I think either way, the the difference between Tre Jones and Sohan at point isn't too far. The gap isn't too big. Obviously, we see the stylistic play, but we got to understand if Tre Jones is starting, they're going to come at Tre. They're going to come at Tre in a lot of different ways. They're going to target him and all these things. So not that he makes them worse, but it's a different problem to have, right? So which problems do you want? So that's the job of the coaching staff to decide, and where they feel this team is best going to benefit from these types of lineups moving forward. So have a great day, guys. I hope that helped out. Go Spurs go. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Hit that like button down below. Hit the notification bell as well so you can get notified when I'm dropping more content. I'm truly going to try to do at least 1 or 2 episodes a week. Like this is a season not to miss. It's very exciting, and it's extremely insightful on the direction of the organization. So to see Wimby also uh, to go. Actually, but before I let you go, I think Devin's got to step up. I know Devin's a scorer. He likes to play off ball. He likes to catch and work off the catch and all that stuff. But you can see how he's always deferring to Jeremy, and I think that shows great trust in those two. They trust each other very well. But there's times where I want Devin to get the ball and just bring it up. And sometimes he gets that inbound pass and he just looks for someone else to give it to so he can go get to his spot and start operating. But if we're talking about development, I think that Devin Vassell needs to develop into a playmaker, into a point guard who can be your not point guard, but he's got to have that skill set where he can be your leading point of attack. Because if you think about all the great two guards in the league, man, they go after it. They want the ball all the time. If they can get the ball and take off and go score, man, they will. And so it's like a killer instinct that I think I've seen a little bit in Devin, but more so this season. You can tell that he's changing. Devin's changing too, right? So, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Go Spurs, go! And it's going to be a great season.